I was born and raised in Box Hill North. Started playing footy in the under-13s at St Peter's, which was in the Churches League in Box Hill. Played under-13, under-15 and under-17. We won a couple of grand finals under-17, which was great. In fact, I used to play a couple of games, and I used to play under-17 and first in the afternoon for a couple of years, which was interesting. From there, I actually got selected to play in the Victorian under-17 side, which was coached by Brian Dixon from Melbourne, and we played 4 or 5 games against other states. And from that, we went to a promotional tour in New Guinea and played 3 or 4 games in New Guinea as a promotional marketing venture, I guess, for the VFL, which was great. Following that, I actually got a letter from Hawthorn. Box Hill was in the Hawthorn zone. So in 1977, went down to Hawthorn and played in the under-19s under Brian Coleman. And the following year, I did a pre-season at Hawthorn in 1978. But towards the end of the pre-season, I got a call from Brian Dixon from Melbourne, asking me to come down and play there, and also got a call from Camberwell to come and play there, and basically chose Camberwell because it just suited me better with my night school and with work. So finished up going to Camberwell early in the season in 1978, and was lucky enough to play in a grand final in 78. Played a premiership in 79. Was there in 80. Again in 81 we won the grand final. Played in 82, and then in 83 I played about 3 or 4 games, and Colin Judd, who left Camberwell and gone to coach South Croydon in the EDFL. So I went up there and played with Colin in 83, and we won a grand final at South Croydon. Played again in 84 at South Croydon, and then Colin went back to Camberwell, and I went to and played at Hobart for a year as a fly-in player, and that lasted for a year. Then moved down here to where I am now in Carrum Downs near Frankston, and didn't play footy after that, and that was basically the end of my footy career. I played most of my career as a rover, occasionally into the centre and occasionally as a ruck rover, but the majority of my footy was as a rover, and probably my biggest asset was my speed. And of course in the VFA it was handy to have a bit of speed so you didn't get whacked all the time, but the speed was probably the biggest asset. I think the fact that we had such a strong physical side was also a big help to me, because being a small fellow, it was really advantageous to have some protection there. But certainly biggest asset was my speed. Pretty good tackling, was able to kick a few goals. I think kicked 5 and 6, maybe even 7 goals on a few occasions at Camberwell. So basically a speed and kick a few goals, that was probably best asset. The Camberwell Footy Club was a really big part of my life for 5 years, and it was a club that I really enjoyed playing footy there. I enjoyed the people that were involved in the club, not just the players, but the support staff, the trainers, the runners, everybody involved, the supporter base of the footy club. I think was just fantastic, and I can remember going to the footy club on a Sunday night after the game, and it was just packed every home game. It was just an absolute buzz going down there, and probably even though the 1979 grand final was the first for the footy club, and it was obviously a big thrill for me to be part of that. In fact, a big thrill for me to be part of 3 grand finals for that footy club, but it was a club that you just wanted to be part of. You know, I never used to be love going to footy training, but I used to love going into the Camberwell Footy Club, and I used to love being part of the activities, whether it was social, whether it was on the ground, no matter what it was, you know. And the people that I met from the footy club were just quality people, and it was just a fantastic place to be around. I guess the disappointing thing from my point of view is that obviously I wasn't part of the club then, but hearing and reading that the club folded in 1990 was a really sad day for me, and I to this day still don't understand the reasons behind that. I don't understand what went on, but it was certainly a very sad day when I heard that piece of news. But having said all that, I to this day it was the best club that I've been involved in. It was just a fantastic footy club to be around, and I guess the other thing that probably is a bit of a disappointment for me is that I haven't been back to the footy club for a fair while now, and I guess it's taken these interviews that I've been looking at over the past few weeks from David, who's done an absolutely fantastic job, as has David Barker, who's done a great job as well to keep everybody informed with all the information that's been going on. And I do regret not being catching up with a lot of the guys and not making the effort to do that. So hopefully on the next reunion that I'll be there and be able to catch up and have a bit of fun. Certainly 1979. I don't recall a lot about 79 in terms of the games during the year, but my biggest memory of 1979 was basically the grand final, and more so after the grand final, because not only was there a huge crowd at Toorak Park that day, but there was a lot of Camberwell people who I met for the first time that day after the game, that it was such an emotional roller coaster for a lot of people, and as I say, a lot of people that I'd never even met before. And being Camberwell's first premiership, it obviously meant a lot to a lot of people. And I can remember after the game getting hugged and kissed and grabbed by people that I'd never met before, and all of a sudden we're best mates. And I do remember going to the after party down at South Melbourne, and it was just a fantastic night. It was a great night for the supporters, as well as the players, obviously, but for the club itself and for the supporters, it was obviously a fantastic event. In 1981, I thought we had a really high-class side in 81. We had a team that really, from full back through to full forward along the centre line, our on-ballers, all our players were. I thought it was just a fantastic footy side, and really, we probably didn't, even though we didn't lose many games throughout the year. I always thought that we were by far the best side in the competition that year, and I do vividly remember one of the last games of the year when we played Mordialloc, and Scotty Cowley got knocked out behind play, and the brawl that sort of happened on the ground and off the ground and up the race and everything. And after that event, we had to play Mordialloc again in the finals a week or two later, and from there it really kick-started our finals campaign. We beat Mordialloc, and then I think we beat Waverley by over 100 points in the second semi-final, and then finished up beating Waverley by I think 5 or 6 goals in the grand final. But my recollection of 81 was that we were, in my opinion, a far superior side, and as I say, we just had such an array of good players in the side on all lines of the ground. It was really a pleasure to be part of that side. I thought it was a great footy side. being a small player, being a rover, I relied pretty heavily on the ruckman we had at Camberwell, and we were very fortunate to have probably two of the best ruckmen in the league, and not just that, they were just fantastic around the ground as well as in the ruck, and made my job a lot easier. So we had Bluey Oliver and we had Phil Nielsen, and later on we also had Kerry Hayward, who was also a high class ruckman. But certainly in those premiership years, Bluey and Phil really gave me a lot of the footy, gave me first use of the footy. Probably Bluey would tell me that he made me look good and gave me a lot of goals, but I always felt that I made Bluey look pretty good, and it was really a pleasure to ruck to those guys. We had a really good relationship, both in the centre of the ground and around the ground, and certainly having that quality of ruckman made my job a lot easier, and they were just a pleasure to work with, and it was sort of ironical that Bluey, not only did he mark the ball around the ground, but he got to all the contests and he got to the centre all the time. He was a really high class ruckman, and Phil Nielsen was the same. He was fantastic to rove to, and really it was just a matter of left hand, right hand, tap it this way, tap it that way, and generally it was going to go out in your direction, and it really made my job a lot easier. Certainly remember 1982, more so than I really want to remember 1980, because we got relegated in 1980. But 1982, the club was very competitive and had a very good year in First Division, and certainly the standard of footy, the skill level, the pace of the game was much more intense, and I think it made you actually a better footballer. Playing with those type of players that First Division had, it actually made you a better player. So, and I vividly remember playing Ray Shaw, who was captain coach of Preston, and we beat Preston in the last kick of the day at Preston, and I think it was after Ray Shaw gave away a 15 metre it was back then, penalty. But he was a very good footballer, and every team in First Division just had a list of high quality footballers that could have really gone on and either have played VFL previously or certainly were in the processes of getting to the VFL standard. And I also remember going to Geelong West, and I remember going to Dandenong, and I remember going to Port Melbourne, and they were just powerhouse football sides, and Port Melbourne still is a powerhouse footy side even today. But it really was an eye-opening experience, and the Camberwell Footy Club actually went very well in 1982, and I think the seconds even made the finals in 1982. So it was a really good progression from where we were in 81, much more so than in 1980, where we went up and went down. Even though we were quite competitive, it was disappointing to go up and down straight away. But certainly in 1982, the club was much more competitive, both in the first and the seconds, and it was a really good experience to play against those top players. When I look at the footy that's played today, and I look at the footy that was played back when we were at Camberwell, it's certainly like cheese and chalk. I mean, it's gone really from one extreme to the other, I guess, and some people may say it's good and some people may say it's bad, but certainly from my point of view, I think that back when we were at Camberwell, it certainly was tough footy, and it was much more physical game than what it is today. And for me personally, obviously not being such a big guy, I was heavily reliant on a lot of guys I used to play with, and I was very fortunate to have a lot of guys who would stand in and protect us, and guys like Ross, right, and Juddy and Neil Chamberlain and Barney, Phil Nielsen and Bluey and all those sort of guys. It was just easy to play for me in that time, even though it was a very physical game. I mean, and I can recall back in 1978 when we played in the grand final and we had that bit of a brawl before the game. I didn't even realise it happened at the time, but after the melee sort of went away and we went back to go in positions, I had blood coming from my ear and realised that someone had bit half my earlobe off. So that was an interesting time. But certainly I can remember going home too after many games and being whacked in the head and bruised eyes and all sorts of stuff. But I guess it was just part of the game back then, and it was hard. It was tough. In some cases, probably unfair in some ways, but it's certainly changed a lot to what it is now, and probably changed, I guess, for the better in most cases. Even though, a little bit of physicality doesn't go astray, but certainly back then it probably went a bit too far one way. But it certainly was tough, and you used to know you played a game of footy after you finished playing. That's for sure.
You've given your heart to get here and your soul to get it right. You can take 'em boots and all, but it's sure gonna take a fight. When you spend all week getting to your peak, you're gonna have your say. You bet. On Sunday, it's the VFA. It's Sunday, you're gonna make your play for the VFA. Today you're gonna fly. It's Sunday for the VFA. It's Sunday.